There comes a moment in life when you must decide whether to live as a mere observer of fate or as the one who shapes it. The year 2026 is not just a number, it is a symbol, a mirror reflecting the state of your inner world. What you believe within, you will encounter without. When you act as if failure is impossible, you do not deceive yourself, you awaken the deeper intelligence of your soul. The part of you that has always known success was never a question of luck but of alignment. You are not here to doubt, you are here to become. The power of your inner attitude is the unseen architect of your destiny. Everything you experience, in the outer world, is born from the silent conviction within you. When you act as if failure is impossible, you are not deluding yourself. You are shaping the field of possibility around you. Every thought, every emotion, every subtle vibration of belief carries energy. The unconscious listens carefully to the commands of your attitude, and it responds with precision. If your inner dialogue whispers doubt, the world echoes uncertainty. But if you move through life with the unwavering certainty that you cannot fail, the unconscious begins to arrange circumstances in your favor. It does not mean that obstacles vanish, it means that you meet them with a power that refuses defeat. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Acting as if failure is impossible is one way of making your unconscious your ally. You are programming your psyche not to sabotage your dreams but to support them. Deep within, there is a storehouse of potential. A creative intelligence that mirrors the vastness of the universe itself. Most people live as prisoners of their own limited beliefs, unaware that their mind is the builder of both their prisons and their palaces. When you shift your inner posture from fear to faith, the architecture of your life begins to change. What was once impossible begins to unfold naturally, because you have aligned yourself with a deeper current of power. This inner attitude is not mere optimism, it is a psychological transformation. To act as if failure is impossible means to live in harmony with your higher self, the part of you that knows purpose beyond fear. The ego may tremble, but the soul never doubts. It understands that every experience, even one that seems like a setback, is a necessary step toward wholeness. Failure only exists where fear rules. When courage takes command, even mistakes become lessons in disguise. The person who acts as if failure is impossible does not ignore reality, they redefine it. They see each challenge as a dialogue between their conscious intent and the vast intelligence of life itself. To live with this mindset is to awaken the ancient truth that thought is creative. The attitude you hold shapes the lens through which you interpret existence. When you see yourself as capable, resilient, and guided, the world begins to reveal opportunities that match that vibration. Doubt, on the other hand, distorts perception. It blinds you to possibility. Acting as if failure is impossible clears that fog. It reintroduces clarity and precision to your vision. You no longer wait for permission to believe. You claim the right to act from conviction. The universe meets you halfway, for it recognizes the language of faith. Every great achievement in history began with someone who refused to entertain the idea of failure. It was not their skill alone, but their unwavering inner stance that drew reality toward success. This is not arrogance, it is alignment. When you believe with all your being that you will prevail, you are speaking the same language as the creative force that animates life. You are no longer separate from your destiny, you are participating in it consciously. The outer world becomes a mirror reflecting your internal certainty. To act as if failure is impossible does not mean ignoring difficulty, it means transforming your relationship with it. Obstacles become invitations to deepen your resolve. Fear becomes a teacher reminding you to trust more deeply. In this way, your inner attitude becomes a compass, guiding you through uncertainty with the quiet assurance that nothing is wasted and nothing can truly defeat you. The world bends to the shape of your belief. You are always creating, always influencing, always sending ripples into the fabric of reality through the tone of your inner dialogue. In 2026, as you face the unknown, remember this: your attitude is your destiny in disguise. The future does not arrive by chance. It emerges from the energy you bring to each moment. Act as if failure is impossible, not because you wish to escape fear, but because you have outgrown it. Stand firm in your conviction that every step forward is divinely guided. The mind may waver, but the soul remains still, luminous, and unafraid. When your inner world stands unshaken, the outer world must follow. This is the secret power of attitude, the invisible foundation upon which every great life is built. Every year carries its own symbolic weight, and 2026 is no exception. It is not merely a calendar year, it is a symbol, a living mirror of transformation. Jung taught that symbols are the language of the unconscious, bridges between what we know and what we have yet to understand. When you see this year as a time of renewal, you begin to participate in its meaning. Acting as if failure in 2026 is impossible means recognizing this year as the threshold between who you have been and who you are becoming. The external world may appear uncertain, but the psyche knows that transformation is born from tension, the tension between what is dying and what is trying to be born. The energy of 2026 invites you to shed old patterns, beliefs, and identities that no longer serve your evolution. Life will not wait for your permission to change. It will move through you with or without your cooperation. The wise individual learns to move with that current, not against it. Acting as if failure is impossible in this symbolic year is not about defiance. It is about surrender to the greater intelligence within you. You are not forcing destiny, you are aligning with it. The moment you accept 2026 as a sacred opportunity for transformation, your perception shifts from resistance to readiness. You begin to see challenges as initiations, not punishments. To act as if failure is impossible this year is to view each experience as a message from your inner self. The unconscious speaks through events, through patterns, through the subtle synchronicities that whisper, "You are being guided." When you attune to this language, you realize that even apparent setbacks are part of your individuation, the process of becoming whole. Every difficulty holds a lesson, every detour conceals a direction. The person who understands this no longer fears change, for they know that transformation is the only constant in life. Acting as if failure cannot exist is another way of saying, "I trust the process of becoming." 2026, therefore, becomes not a test of endurance, but a field of evolution. To live through it consciously is to let go of the illusion of control and to act from the deeper intelligence of your soul. The conscious mind plans, but the unconscious knows. When you surrender to that knowing, you awaken creativity, resilience, and courage. This is the year to unite the opposites within you. The doubter and the believer, the thinker and the dreamer, the one who fears and the one who dares. Jung called this inner union the conjunctio, the sacred marriage of opposites. When that happens within you, failure loses meaning. Every outcome becomes part of your greater unfolding. Transformation is not gentle. It asks that you dissolve what no longer fits the truth of who you are. You may lose people, situations, or habits that once felt safe, but in that loss lies liberation. Acting as if failure is impossible does not mean everything will go according to plan. It means that no matter how life reshapes itself, you will not lose faith in your capacity to adapt. True strength comes not from control, but from integration, from allowing all experiences, even painful ones, to serve your growth. This is how you turn chaos into clarity. You begin to see that life has never been against you. It has always been molding you into alignment with your purpose. When you view 2026 as a symbolic cycle of transformation, every moment becomes meaningful. The year itself becomes a living archetype, representing death and rebirth, endings and beginnings, loss and renewal. And through it all, your task is to remain faithful to your inner attitude. To act as if failure is impossible, because transformation never fails. It may be messy, uncertain, even frightening, but it always leads somewhere necessary. Trusting that is the essence of spiritual maturity. When you can look at your life and say, even this serves me, you have entered a higher dimension of being. You are not here merely to survive another year. You are here to evolve through it. The symbol of 2026 calls you to awaken the creator within, the part of you that no longer waits for the perfect conditions to act. You create them. You make this year a masterpiece by how you meet it, by how you choose to interpret its moments. Every sunrise becomes a reminder. Transformation is not coming, it is already here. The question is not whether you will change, but whether you will participate consciously in that change. And when you do, when you live as though failure is not an option, you merge with the very force that sustains creation. Then, 2026 becomes not just another year, but the year your soul took command of your destiny. The shadow of doubt is the silent companion of every dreamer. It follows you not to destroy you, but to reveal what still remains unintegrated within you. Acting as if failure is impossible does not mean pretending that fear doesn't exist. It means facing the shadow of doubt and refusing to let it command your destiny. Jung taught that the shadow is the part of the psyche we reject, the hidden side we deny, yet it holds immense energy. Every time you suppress your fear, your insecurity, or your hesitation, they do not disappear. They retreat into the unconscious, gathering power until you have no choice but to meet them. When you turn toward your shadow and look it in the eye, you discover it was never an enemy, it was the key to your strength. The reason most people never rise to their potential is not that they lack ability, but that they avoid confrontation with their inner darkness. Doubt whispers stories of limitation, convincing you that failure is inevitable, that you are unworthy, that success belongs to others but not to you. Yet those whispers are illusions, echoes of past experiences and inherited fears. Acting as if failure is impossible is a direct act of defiance against that inner narrative. It is you saying, I choose to write a new story. To face the shadow of doubt means to step into the arena of your own mind, where every limiting belief must be challenged and transformed. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move forward even as fear tries to hold you still. Every time you act from conviction instead of hesitation, you reclaim power from your shadow. Each decision grounded in faith weakens the voice of doubt. The process is not easy. It is psychological alchemy, the transformation of base fear into golden confidence. The shadow will resist at first, trying to pull you back into old patterns. It will disguise itself as logic, caution, or even humility. It will tell you to wait for the perfect moment or to lower your expectations. But the truth is that the perfect moment never arrives. Only you can make it perfect by acting decisively. When you recognize the voice of doubt as a disguise, you strip it of its control. You begin to see that failure exists only where fear is given authority. The more you integrate your shadow, the more whole you become. Jung believed that wholeness, not perfection, is the goal of life. To be whole means to embrace every part of yourself, the confident and the doubtful, the brave and the afraid. When you accept your inner contradictions, they stop fighting each other. The energy that was once trapped in fear becomes available for creation, for passion, for purpose. Acting as if failure is impossible is not about denying struggle, it is about recognizing that struggle itself is a form of awakening. Every fear faced consciously becomes fuel for your transformation. The shadow loses its grip because you no longer resist it. You understand it, and in understanding you transcend it. Think of doubt as a dark mirror. It reflects not what is true about you, but what you have yet to believe. When you act despite it, you shatter the illusion of its power. The person who has faced their own shadow no longer fears judgment, failure, or uncertainty because they have already met the worst within themselves and survived. That kind of self-awareness breeds invincibility. you begin to realize that nothing external can truly defeat you. Only your inner resistance can. Once that resistance dissolves, you move through life with quiet strength. You no longer need to prove anything. You simply are. The energy once consumed by fear becomes the foundation of calm confidence, the kind that transforms every intention into reality. In 2026, as you pursue your goals, doubt will still visit you. It always does. But instead of shrinking from it, meet it as an old friend carrying a message. There is something within you that still seeks acceptance. Do not silence it. Listen, learn, and then rise. Each encounter with your shadow is a step toward mastery of self. When you no longer run from the dark, you become light itself. The moment you face your fear of failure fully, you realize that failure was never real. It was only a reflection of your belief in limitation. You have outgrown it the instant you decide to act in faith. To act as if failure is impossible, then, is to live with integrated strength, to walk through doubt as though it was smoke. You recognize that your fears, though loud, are powerless against conscious will. This is the inner liberation Jung spoke of, the awakening of the self beyond the shadow. When you embody this truth, you no longer ask whether you will succeed. You know you already have, because you have conquered the only true obstacle, yourself. The world bends to those who have mastered their own darkness, because they are no longer fragmented. They are whole, and from wholeness, everything becomes possible. The archetype of the hero lives within every human being. It is not confined to myths, legends, or stories. It is the eternal pattern of transformation that repeats in every life. Acting as if failure in 2026 is impossible is not arrogance. It is the awakening of that inner hero. The hero's journey begins not in triumph, but in uncertainty. It begins when the ordinary self hears the quiet call of destiny whispering, "There is more to you than this." Most ignore that call, bound by comfort and fear. But for those who listen, the path ahead is clear, though not easy. It demands courage, faith, and a willingness to confront everything that stands between who you are and who you are meant to become. When you act as if failure is impossible, you are answering that call. You are declaring that you will no longer live as a passive observer in your own story. You become the author, the warrior, the seeker. You begin to move through the world with the energy of purpose, guided not by certainty of outcome, but by certainty of intent. The hero never begins his journey knowing how it will end. Yet he takes the first step because something deep within insists that destiny belongs to those who dare. Jung taught that the hero archetype represents the self's natural drive toward wholeness, the process of integrating the conscious and the unconscious, light and shadow, fear and courage. Each time you act as if, you are not pretending, you are summoning that archetype from within, allowing it to lead. There is a profound difference between pretending and embodying. Pretending is fragile, it relies on surface confidence. Embodying is powerful, it draws from the soul. To act as if failure is impossible is to embody the hero's knowing that no matter how difficult the path, every challenge exists to forge your strength. The world may call you reckless for believing so deeply in your vision, but the hero understands that faith itself is an act of creation. When you hold unwavering conviction, you align your consciousness with the creative order of the universe. Life responds in kind, not because it is compelled to, but because you have tuned yourself to the frequency of purpose. The hero archetype teaches that trials are not punishments, they are initiations. The hardships you face are not signs of fail, but invitations to awaken the deeper forces within you. The hero walks into the cave of fear not to prove bravery, but to claim the treasure that lies within: wisdom, resilience, self-trust. When you act as though failure cannot touch you, you are stepping into that cave willingly, knowing that whatever you encounter is meant to strengthen, not destroy you. Every moment of doubt, rejection, or setback becomes a test of endurance, a refinement of spirit. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of circumstance and begin to see yourself as a conscious participant in your own myth. The outer world mirrors this inner transformation. When you carry the energy of the hero, people feel it before you speak. Opportunities appear not by coincidence, but because you have become magnetic to them. The world responds to inner certainty. It bends to those who know who they are. Acting as if failure is impossible is not about controlling outcomes. It is about mastering response. The hero cannot always control what happens, but he always chooses how to meet it, with courage, grace, and persistence. And in that choice, destiny is shaped. In the language of Jung, the hero is the bridge between the ego and the self, the conscious and the divine. When you awaken this archetype, you cease to live from fear-based identity. You begin to act from purpose, from the deep knowing that your existence has meaning beyond circumstance. Every step you take becomes sacred because you are walking the path of become. Ing. You start to see that the journey itself is the reward and that every obstacle is both a test and a teacher. In 2026, when you decide to live as the hero of your own story, you transcend the need for external validation. You no longer wait for signs that you will succeed. Your faith becomes the sign. Every decision, every risk, every act of courage becomes a declaration. I am the creator of my life. And creation, once claimed, cannot fail. You understand that the world does not reward hesitation, it rewards embodiment. When you act as if failure is impossible, you embody your highest potential, and that energy transforms everything it touches. The hero's journey is not about reaching perfection, it is about remembering who you are. Beneath fear and uncertainty lies an unshakable core, the eternal self that knows no defeat. That is the hero's secret. He does not fight for victory. He fights because it is in his nature to rise. Acting as if failure is impossible is the purest expression of that nature. It is the soul's refusal to bow to limitation. And when you live this way, the story of your life becomes a myth worth telling, a testimony that courage is not the absence of fear, but the triumph of purpose over doubt. Faith is not an illusion. It is the highest form of psychic energy, the force that connects the conscious mind to the infinite intelligence of life itself. Acting as if failure in 2026 is impossible requires this kind of faith, not as blind belief, but as act. Participation in creation. Faith is the invisible bridge between thought and manifestation. It is the inner conviction that the unseen will become seen, that the intangible will find form. When you hold unwavering faith, you awaken a power within you that moves beyond logic. Jung often spoke of the psyche's capacity to shape reality through symbolic energy. Faith is that energy in motion. It is the belief that your inner world and outer world are one, that what you cultivate within must eventually appear without. Faith is not born from comfort. It grows in moments of uncertainty, in the quiet spaces where reason fails to provide clarity. The human spirit discovers its depth only when all else is stripped away. When you stand at the edge of doubt and still choose to believe, you access a strength that transcends the limits of intellect. That is the essence of faith. It is creative energy in its purest form. Every great achievement, every transformation begins with someone who dared to believe before seeing proof. To act as if failure is impossible is to live in alignment with this sacred law of faith. You no longer wait for evidence, your belief becomes the evidence. The moment you choose faith over fear, the universe begins to respond to your vibration. Faith is not passive, it is dynamic. It demands participation, consistency, and surrender. It is not merely thinking positively, but living as though the outcome you desire has already been set in motion. This way of living reorders the entire psyche. The conscious mind sends a command, and the unconscious begins to work tirelessly to bring it into form. Your intuition sharpens, your perception expands, and coincidences multiply because the inner and outer worlds have begun to cooperate. You stop chasing results and start embodying them. You become the magnet rather than the seeker. Faith, then, is not a fragile hope. It is a psychological principle that governs the creative process of life. In 2026, when you decide to act as if failure is impossible, you are choosing faith as your primary fuel. You are declaring that the same energy that sustains galaxies flows through your own existence. Faith aligns you with that current. The more you trust it, the stronger it becomes. Each act of belief amplifies your energy field, sending ripples through the fabric of possibility. People may call you unrealistic, but faith was never meant to be realistic. It is meant to be transformative. Realism keeps you confined to what already exists. Faith creates what has never been. Every vision that has ever changed the world began as a seed of faith planted in one person's heart. Faith does not guarantee an easy path. It guarantees a meaningful one. It does not eliminate struggle, but it gives struggle purpose. When you meet obstacles, faith reminds you that they are not signs to stop, but signals to grow. When doors close, faith shows you another way. When others doubt you, faith becomes your silent companion. Wisp, erring that all things unfold in divine timing. In the language of Jungian psychology, faith is the bridge that connects the ego to the self, the limited mind to the eternal source. It restores harmony between the parts of you that doubt and the parts that know. Once that alignment is achieved, failure loses its grip because there is no longer division within you. You act from wholeness, and wholeness cannot fail. Faith also carries responsibility. It asks that you act in accordance with your beliefs. To claim that you believe, and yet behave as if you will fail, is to send mixed messages to the universe. True faith is expressed through action, through persistence, through patience, through the refusal to abandon your path even when results seem distant. Each act of faith sends a signal into the unseen, and that signal never returns void. The universe is responsive, alive, and deeply intimate with the state of your inner world. What you believe shapes what you receive. This is not mysticism, it is psychological truth. In the quiet moments of 2026, when you doubt your progress or question your strength, return to faith as your foundation. Remind yourself that every great transformation happens first in the unseen. Trust that what is meant for you is already moving toward you. Do not seek proof, be the proof. When you act as if failure is impossible, you are demonstrating ultimate faith in life itself. You are saying, I am one with the creative force that governs existence. And in that statement lies power beyond measure. Faith is not about knowing how, it is about knowing that. It is the energy that turns the impossible into the inevitable. When you live with such conviction, the world rearranges itself to reflect your belief, and every moment becomes evidence that the universe was always on your side.